Hi CIDP group friends, this is my diary entry number 6. It's been a long time between 5 and 6 and there's very good reason for that. I was hoping always to be able to report good news, and finally I'm able to report some good news. So this diary entry is an entry to encourage and bring hope. Quick change of scenery for you there. Okay, so if you've been following my video diary since February, you'll know that I've had CIDP for over 5 years now. It originally started with weakness in my hands and feet, and we've managed that very, very well with IVIG at differing intervals and differing doses over all of that time. My partner and I are singers. We've been doing entertaining all over the world and throughout the UK for nearly 25 years. Of course, the CIDP has affected that over time, but during the original lockdowns in March of 2020, I was still able enough to be able to do shows on our street to entertain our neighbours. It was very shortly after those videos through the lockdown that my legs became much weaker. I was struggling with balance. I wasn't able to stand up unassisted. I was having to use a walking stick to get around, and by October it had got that bad that we upped my dosage of IVIG and my consultant wanted to start me on prednisolone. Now I was skeptical about this because I've read lots of information about people with motor affected CIDP. My condition is MADSAM, and particularly with that, the steroids do tend to make it worse. Now, against my better judgment, I did start them and immediately began to realise that things were not good at all. I think that was around November of 2021. By the time we got to the beginning of February, things had got very, very bad. And I was well aware that the steroids were 100% making me worse. Things got worse and worse throughout January, and by the time we got to the end of the month, I couldn't stand up at all, I couldn't balance, I couldn't get to the toilet, I couldn't do anything for myself. And in February, middle of February, I woke up one morning completely paralysed. Now, I'm going to try and get through this fairly quickly because it's been documented in my previous videos. So I was admitted to hospital at that time, first admission in February, and I was given a 5-day course of IVIG therapy. Now, a week later, that had been so effective that I was able to actually walk out of the hospital. So I'd gone from being unable to stand to being able to walk again in the space of a week. And the problem was that only actually lasted for 10 days, and then I fell into another acute relapse, which this time was much worse. I couldn't move anything from the waist down, and it was absolutely terrifying. It felt like everything was giving up. So I was readmitted to the hospital, where unfortunately their first line of treatment was a large dose of IV prednisolone. Now, I was already aware that the prednisolone was making me worse, but they wouldn't have that. And so they gave me that over 3 days, and over that 3 days I was beginning to lose the use of my arms and my hands as well. Now, I'm not saying that these therapies don't work. They are massively effective for a lot of people with these conditions, but for some people they have the opposite effect. Now, the point of this is trying to find the balance for the treatments that work well for you. In my case, the prednisolone and steroid therapies just do not work. Given that, the second week I was in hospital during the second admission, we tried a 5-day course of plasma exchange. Again, for me, it just made the situation tenfold worse. And by the time I'd finished that, I was unable to move anything at all. It literally was just a wobbling mess on the bed. No control of my hands, no control of my feet or legs. Every muscle just felt like it had completely given up. Now at that stage, my consultant finally agreed to give me another 5-day load of IVIG, which, to be fair, was not very long after the previous lot that had got me walking again. So I had this other 5-day load, and by the time another week had passed, it really hadn't been very effective at all. So they sent me home with help from occupational therapy and physiotherapy to just try and manage the best way that I could. Now, I didn't want to put up with that because I know full well that a good dose of IVIG works very well on me. So I suggested that we try a weekly dose at 30 grams, and thankfully my consultant agreed to that. So I went home with that being the ongoing plan, basically. Coming home after all that time was very, very emotional, especially as my partner had come down with COVID during the time that I was in and was unable to visit. So it was very, very isolating being in hospital, I guess. The problem was, by the time I came home, I was still wheelchair bound. I could take a few steps with a frame, as I mentioned in the previous video, but in terms of actually getting around, the wheelchair was the only way that I was going to be able to do that. Our house wasn't adapted for that at the time, and the occupational therapy teams and physio teams have been really good at helping out with all of that stuff, but I was beginning to wonder whether or not I'd ever be able to do anything that I've enjoyed previously again. I couldn't manage the stairs, needed help with everything, with toilets, with making food, and you know, it was a horrifying thought to think that that may be it. So we continued with the weekly IVIG treatment, and over the last couple of months things have got ever so slightly better with time. Small flickers of improvement here and there, but it wasn't enough. It was nowhere near enough. So I went back to my consultant again just literally a couple of weeks ago and asked if it would be possible to have what would be now my third 5-day load of IVIG. My gosh, he agreed. So 2 weeks ago I had another course of 5 day of IVIG at 35 grams per day. The effects have been wonderful for now. We had a holiday booked to come to Turkey, as you can see, I'm here now, and I just didn't think it was going to be possible. I thought that we would have to cancel. But with the use of a mobility scooter, which was another point of this video, many of you may not know that you can take these things on a plane completely free of charge. They make the airport so easy. Everyone is very helpful, and actually it gives you the opportunity to go away on holiday and be able to get around, which has been absolutely fantastic. So my IVIG, as it is for a lot of people, takes a few days to kick in, but this 5-day load has taken me from being completely wheelchair bound to being able to stand up again and move around, which has made this holiday it's made it so de-stressed, I guess. I've been able to use the toilet, wash myself just about, with a little bit of help still, but it's kind of switched everything back on. As temporary as it will probably be, for the moment it's been brilliant, and we've been able to come away and relax. My partner has been able to relax as well, instead of worrying about what I'm doing, whether I'm going to fall over. Yeah, of course it's not brilliant, and as you can see, here we are on the little buggy, which has been an absolute godsend. Seriously, if you haven't got one and you think that you're stuck indoors, I promise you, a year ago I wouldn't have been seen dead on this, but needs must, okay? And if you need it, well, use it, because it will make a massive difference to your life. I've tried to make the most of this week by using the pool for water exercise, which I find incredibly helpful when I'm well. If I'm in a dip, then it can be the worst thing ever. You know, you go in the pool, you do the exercise, you come out feeling a lot worse than you were. But I've found that incredibly helpful as well this week. So I've managed to take a few steps with a walking stick again. For the most part, I'm driving around on this, but it's got me out, and I think that's the most important thing, because the feeling of being trapped is one that a lot of us go through, and it can be very depressing and very just damaging, I guess, to the mind. I think one more thing that's really important to mention is the people that look after us, whether it be husbands, wives, partners, social workers, carers, nurses, whatever. This condition affects them as much as it affects us. In fact, I guess to a point, maybe even a little bit more. To watch somebody that you love go through suffering is horrible for anybody. So big shout out to all of you. Thank you very much for being there for us, and we truly do appreciate it. going back to how I started this video, which is a video for hope, and it is a video for hope because I have had the best 2 weeks that I've had in a very long time. With the right treatment, you can live. I say this over and over and over again, you know, don't take the advice of the doctors. They don't know as much as you will learn in these groups. Do your research, find the treatments that work for you, and if something doesn't work for you, you will know. You're gonna know very quickly if a treatment is not working, and then shout and kick and scream until you get what you need, because without it, you won't get better. I will be back with another update. I know this isn't going to last, but for now, it's good. I send you lots of love.